Hello students, my name is Simran Arora, Assistant Professor in IIMT College of Management, Department of BCom. So today topic is Budget 2023 to 2024 Simplified. So this topic is very important for every citizen of India, as we all have many questions in our mind now, like how the government use the amount which we pay to them in form of taxes. So how they use it, where they use it, we have many questions. So these questions can be answered by this topic known as budget. So let's start. What is a budget? So what is a budget? We all prepare a budget at our home also, right? So we prepare like in the coming month or a coming year, how much expenditure or the income we are expecting, right? But a government budget is of a period of 12 months. So it is an annual statement. A government budget is an annual statement showing item wise estimate. So it shows the estimate as it is related to the future aspect. So it shows the estimate of receipt and expenditure during a fiscal year, during a period of 12 months. So budget is presented on every year 1st February by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The current Finance Minister is Nirmala Sitharaman. So the next question after clearing what is budget can be, what are the steps involved in preparing a budget? So these are the steps which are involved in preparing a budget. So it takes around 6 months to prepare a budget. So the preparation of announcing the budget in the February started in last year, approximately August in last year. So first, the Finance Ministry issue a circular to every ministry to give an estimate of expenditure of the next financial year. Then the Finance Ministry also calculate an estimate of the GDP, of the growth in GDP, and on the basis of these figures and with the consultation of the stakeholders like the farmer union, the trade bodies, the businesses, etc., the government prepare a budget with the final discussion with the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. And at the end, it is presented on 1st February every year in Parliament. So these are the steps involved in preparing a budget. The next, what are the objective? With what objective a budget is prepared? The first is reallocation of resources. So we all know the resources are limited. So government has to decide where to allocate that resources. So with the budget, government prepare or decide where they are going to invest the country resources so that they'll get the profit maximization and the social welfare also. The next is reducing inequality in income and wealth. So the government, through its budget, it decide how they are going to bring the equality in the country, as they charge high level of taxes from the high level of group of people, high level of income group of people, and they redistribute it through subsidies or the help to the lower level of group of income people. So the next is economic stability. So government budget is also a very important tool through which they can bring in stability. They can have a control over the inflation and deflation and bring the economic stability in the country. The next reason can be economic growth. So the budget is also a very important tool through which they study the generation of saving, investment, consumption, capital expenditure, capital formation, etc., to rise the standard of living of people. The next objective can be reducing regional disparity. So what government do, the part of the society which is a little weaker in economic way, so they'll establish or the manufacturing unit there so that they can uplift that section of the society. So government budget can also play a very important role in reducing the regional disparity. So these are the objectives with which a budget is prepared. So the next topic is budget component. So there are two components in a budget. First one is capital budget. The second one is revenue budget. So what is a capital budget? Which either impacts the asset or the liability of a country are the capital budget. Revenue budget, which neither impacts the asset or liability of a country, is known as the revenue budget. So the first one is capital receipt. So what are capital receipt? Which either increases the liability of a country or reduces the asset are known as capital receipt. For an example, borrowing, disinvestment are the example of capital receipt. And what are the capital expenditure, which increases the asset of a country or reduces the liability. Like if you are paying the loan which you have taken, it can be the example of capital expenditure, or constructing a metro can be an example of capital expenditure. The next is revenue receipt, what are the revenue receipt? Which neither increases the liability nor reduces the asset of a country is known as revenue receipt. So revenue receipt can be tax receipt and non-tax receipt both. So in tax receipt, it can be direct taxes and indirect taxes both. And in non-tax receipt, like the fine, the profit, the interest, these are the example of revenue receipt. And next is revenue expenditure. So the paying of salary, pension, etc. comes under the revenue expenditure. So this is all about the budget component. The next is budget deficit. So what is a budget deficit? When budget expenditure exceeds the budget revenue. When the government expenditure is more than the government revenue, that condition is known as budget deficit. So the budget deficit is divided into two parts, revenue deficit and the fiscal deficit. So that what is revenue deficit? When, as we have discussed, revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. So when the revenue expenditure is more than the revenue receipt, that condition is known as revenue deficit. When revenue expenditure is more than the revenue receipt. And what is the fiscal deficit? When government total expenditure exceeds the total revenue is known as the fiscal deficit. When the total expenditure, both revenue and capital expenditure, is more than the capital and the revenue receipt, that condition is known as the fiscal deficit. I hope it's clear to you all. So we all can understand it that a deficit condition, a deficit budget is not at all good for a country, right? So the next is economic survey. Do you all know what is an economic survey? So what is a budget? So budget tell us the future condition, the future aspect. But a survey tell us how was the country condition in the past year. So this year 2023 economic survey tell us the condition of the country in the past year. So if I'm saying economic survey 2023, that means economic survey 2022 to 2023. Okay. So let's see what economic survey says, and it is announced every year on one day before the budget. So it is announced on 31st January every year. So first we are going to start with the chart, come in between the chart, that is GDP growth. So we'll start with the GDP growth. So it says that in 2029, the GDP was 3.7, then the corona period arose, so it got in the negative. Then our country started reviving, so it rise up to 8.7. Now it has been estimated that in 2023 to 2024, the GDP is going to be between 6 to 6.8%. So that is a good condition for our country. The next is fiscal deficit. We have discussed what is fiscal deficit. So it was seen that in 4.7, it was in 2019 to 2020, it was 4.7%. Then due to corona, it arises to 9.2%. Now it is estimated that in 2022 to 2023, it is 6.4%. So every government aim to reduce the fiscal deficit. So in this budget, we will discuss in the next slide that government is aiming to reduce the fiscal deficit. The next is inflation. So let's see the CPI, Consumer Price Index. So it is seen that from 4.8, it has rise to 6.2. Then again, it is rising, but it fall to 5.5. Now it is 6.8. So, but now the government is saying that it has reached its maximum. Now from here, it will going to fall only. So the inflation is going to control in the country. The next is foreign exchange reserve. So it is also very important for a country, as we all can see the condition of the Pakistan and Sri Lanka like countries. So every country wants a good foreign exchange reserve with it. But due to Ukraine war from 2021 to 2020, from 2021 to 2022 to 2022 to 2023, it is falling. So it go even to the 525 something, but now it is reviving again. So it is 563. So which is a good sign. The next is service sector, GVA. Thus it got down to minus 7.8 in the corona period. Now it is reviving again, 9.1. That is also a good condition. The next is agriculture and allied activities. So it is also going good from 3 to 3.5. So it is also reviving. And industrial growth is also very important for our developing country to become a developed country. So 2021, it was 10.3, and now it is expected to again coming back. Yeah, it reduced due to Ukraine war. So it got to 4.1%, but now according to the budget, the government is investing a lot in the capex. So we will see a rise in that also. So now I hope economic survey is clear to you. Now we are going to start with the budget 2023 to 2024. The government has said in the first line of Nirmala Sitharaman, she said that this is the first budget of Amrit Kal. So what is an Amrit Kal? Amrit Kal is a period of 1 year according to the government. They're saying that the Amrit Kal is a period of 100 years, so which will complete to 2047, when India will complete its 100 years of independence. So they have said that there is a vision of Amrit Kal. What are the vision of Amrit Kal? Especially they are going to provide the opportunities to citizen and especially to the youth. The next is the job creation. They are going to focus more on the job creation. This budget is more about creating the jobs and strengthening the macroeconomic stability. So the government is also focusing on macroeconomic stability, that is GDP, fiscal deficit, etc. The next is they have also given the Saptarishi. So what are the Saptarishi? The 7 priority sector on which they are going to focus much on. So the first is the financial sector. They are going to focus much on the financial sector and the youth power. They are, as India is known as the youth country. The next is reaching the last mile, reaching the last potential. And the next is unleashing the potential. Government want to utilize the country's maximum potential. And yes, every country now is focusing much on the green growth. So this budget is also about the green growth. The next is inclusive development. Like they are focusing on the vaccination and the banking facilities, etc. funds. The next is infrastructure and investment. So the government is investing much on the capex. So these are the 7 priority sectors, Saptarishi, which government has announced in the budget. Now, some key points in the budget are, first, the capex challenge. So what is a capex challenge? So government, what is capex? Capex is the capital expenditure. So the more the capital expenditure in a country will be, the more the job opportunity will be in the country and more revenue income will be there. So the government is increasing, or there is seen a hike of 33 to 35% in the capex. So it is very good announcement in this budget. And second, we all know the India is going to hold the presidency of G20 this year. So it is a very pride moment for everyone, every citizen of India. So this can strengthen the role of India in the world economic order also, right? The next point is that government is investing 2 lakh crore rupees on food grain to all Anodhyay and Antodyay and priority households, so that there will be no one hungry in the country. The next is green growth program. So the government has announced PM Pranam, so that are the that will provide the alternative to the fertilizer, so that there will be green growth or green fertilization or the green agriculture in the country. And they are focusing also on the reducing the carbon emission and clean planet program, and also reducing or bringing the economic development, and particularly the sustainable economic development. The next point is millet. Okay, so the government has also announced this year as the period of, or the year of millet. So the India is the largest producer of millet and the second largest exporter of the millet also. And the India believe that millet can make us the soft power in the country. So they are focusing on the millet, and they has also given it a name as Shri Ann. Next, the government is Government will build digital public transport for agriculture to attract more fund. So there is more fund in the government sector, the agriculture sector. Our country get the more fund, but still there is no one unicorn in the agri-tech. So the government is building the digital public infrastructure so that they attract more funding this year, and India gets its first agri-tech unicorn. The next, they are also developing apps. They are trying to develop 100 apps so that they can get a hike, or they can grow in the technology terms also. So these are the few key areas. Now we will study about where the government is investing most of its rupees, and from where government is getting the money and where it is investing it, which sector it is investing the more. So the first sector is borrowing, and the major amount of income government get is from the borrowing. So this is the condition of fiscal deficit in the country, as we are getting the major revenue from the borrowing and the other liabilities. So 34% around we'll get from the borrowing and the liability, and then we'll get from the GST and the other taxes, and then the income tax, then corporation tax from the firms, then excise duty and other. These are custom, non-tax receipt, non-debt capital receipt, etc. Will get the little fund from here also. Now the fund which the government get, where they are investing it. So see, the major amount they are investing on the interest payment of the borrowing. So this is a very bad condition for a country, as we are investing, or we are spending the major amount on the interest payment. The next, we are spending it on the share of taxes and duties. The next expenditure, we are doing it on the central schemes and other expenditures, pension, and on subsidies, defense or sponsored scheme which government every year announced. So these are the few important points about the budget. I hope it helped you understand the budget a little bit more in a concise way. So this is all about. So thank you, students. I hope it is more clear to you now. Bye-bye.